So Warzone 2 and DMZ came out about a week ago, and they are fun as hell. There's definitely still issues with systems and UI, but frankly, DMZ is way better than I thought it would be, and Warzone 2 feels as good as when Warzone 1 launched. Al Mazrah is so much better than Caldera. Since a bunch of the quality of life stuff and new mechanics are shared between both DMZ and Warzone 2, I'm going to try and talk about what's good about them and bad about them in regards to their respective mode. But if I'm honest, I've been playing so much more DMZ than Warzone because it's so fun, and that these opinions are mainly going to focus on DMZ, as that's where I've put the last 40 hours of game time since it came out. On that note, let's start with the new mode, DMZ. So COD's attempt at an extraction royale had me a little bit disappointed when we first saw gameplay of it. Admittedly, this is because the reveal event showing it off was a disorganized mess, and that I'm a Tarkov player. So unless the game kicks me in the nuts and spits on me when I'm down, it'll just feel too easy. And whilst the systems outside of this mode, like contraband weapons and keys, are a little bit watered down, the whole experience is really fun, and frankly, pretty Moorish. I've played a lot of solos, duos, and trios, and each squad size feels like you have to approach the game differently. For example, playing solo, you've got to be real careful of some of the AI, because unless you found a self-revive, one down and you're out. The AI are way better than the invasion mode in the multiplayer. They're still not the smartest, but they can hit like a truck, and if they're armoured, they'll take bullets like one too. They flank and search for you in buildings, they revive other downed AI, they refill their own plates, and they can hit a serious Kobe with their grenades. They don't just feel like cannon fodder like I was worried about. And whilst some armoured enemies are almost insanely tanky if you have a low damage weapon, if you kit yourself out right, you'll be fine. The amount of AI is also just right in my opinion. Smaller, less armoured squads aren't too much of a challenge, but once you enter a city or a high tier area and run into 6 or more armoured goons, it's gonna feel a lot different. Looking into discourse online and talking with my friends, the one thing that comes up so much is that it feels cinematic. Enemy spawns and placement are perfected to just provide a challenge, but not feel like you're in a meat grinder, driving through a point of interest and then being ambushed by AI with rockets, and then an enemy chopper lands and cuts you off, forcing you to take cover in a nearby building and clear some waves before you can safely get back to the mission. It all feels so dynamic and smooth. The strongholds and denied zones are really fun to do in a squad. The high intensity couple of minutes keep you on your toes in between bits of downtime, and depending on the zone you go to, the rewards are excellent. Clearing rooms and getting properly rewarded for your efforts feel great. The contracts you can pick up in game are really good. Yeah, driving supplies somewhere could technically be boring, but then they send an attack chopper after you whilst you and the boys are in an LTV with a big fuck-off gun. Suddenly it becomes a set-piece moment. Then the contracts where you have to defend a small area feel like they condensed all of Payday 2's mission's chaos into 2 to 3 minutes. As soon as you hear an AI smoke grenade pop next to you, you know you have to either run or hunker the fuck down. The XP the AI give out are 100% going to be nerfed. That shit is amazing. So please Activision, don't nerf it before I max out the weak guns, please. But if it was a conscious choice to give players actually decent XP, that would be really good, because they've made some other player-focused changes that feel very unlike them. Because the best part about it, in my opinion, is that the faction mission progress is shared with your entire squad. For example, the task where you have to get kills with a revolver. We all select the task, but only one person needs to get kills with it for all of our progress to track. The faction missions you select from the menu are diverse enough to keep you roaming across the map, and some put you in really interesting or unusual situations. The rewards from them are mostly except for a handful of blueprints, but their purpose is to just be a guiding hand to get you in unique situations. Although, following on from launch issues, some of these missions are buggy and may not track properly. My entire squad was unable to complete the extract an enemy player's weapon challenge, as it was just bugged, so we were hard stuck in progression going forward. And it kinda gave us a glimpse of what this mode will be like after everyone finishes all the faction missions. Because unless there are randomly generated faction missions after you complete all tier 5 missions, I'm unsure why players would choose to go into DMZ regularly, aside from the easy weapon XP. Otherwise, it'll just be self-imposed challenges and farming account XP due to the lack of progression outside of the game. Which also leads us to our next point. The backpack and looting system is pretty damn good. It's all smooth, fast, and not clunky at all. The tiers of armor and backpacks are great for small feelings of in-game progression, and mean if you die, you actually have to get some gear back to get on the same level as before. Originally at launch, I was okay with not being able to extract with spare tier 3 armor or bigger backpacks, but after sweating the living nuts off this game, I can definitely confirm it needs external progression in order to have longevity. And yeah, I know that you can just run into a denied zone, open up a couple of orange crates and get some tier 3 gear, but once the faction missions are done, what are you looting and gearing up for outside of XP farming? Sure, you know cunts with TTV in their name would be grinding out max kits to play with every session instead of playing the fucking game, but they were always going to do that no matter the situation. My suggestion would be to just do what Payday 2 does. You leave the game with a crazy amount of money, but only 20% or so goes to your shopping funds. The rest is is just a score metric. Make backpacks and rigs cost crazy money outside of the game, I don't care. Just the ability to do a couple of low tier rat runs, being able to be guaranteed a decent kit for the next time you and your friends rush the weapon case would be amazing. Whoever came up with the idea to have whole match text chat in Warzone or DMZ should be given a fucking raise. The same goes for proximity voice chat. It's incredibly fun to talk some shit to an enemy squad. And it works great with the new option to work together they added. In DMZ, you're capped to a squad of 3 when you queue in, but using the new party request feature, you can team up with another squad mid-match and become a 6-member powerhouse. And honestly, aside from shit-talking and insulting each other's mothers, that tension of agreeing not to shoot a stranger, but also not joining their team, leaving room for betrayal on both sides, oh my god, that is the kind of emergent gameplay I'm fucking here for. I've had so many encounters where me and other people agree to let each other be, whilst both keeping strict eyes on one another. On that same note though, I've also had many encounters of asking someone for a truce and being told, and I quote, "Go fuck yourself, we're gonna kill you." My main complaint for DMZ, and by proxy the game as a whole, is still the abundance of crashing. Whilst way better than at launch, you'd think that a mode based on gear progression and loot would have a reconnect feature. It's so fun to have my tier 3 plate and bag get lost to a DC because your game crashed. But with that out the way, let's go see Warzone, see how that matches up. The best compliment I can give Warzone 2.0 is that it felt like playing Warzone 1 for the first time during the pandemic. Everything feels smooth and refined, with so many great quality of life features. As I previously stated, Al Mazrah is so much better than Caldera in my opinion. The map design and verticality creates so many interesting fights and situations to get into. Strongholds and AI being in Warzone is actually pretty great. It gives gear progression outside of a loadout drop or a buy station, and it really spices up the moment-to-moment gameplay by keeping you on your toes and creating interesting situations for players to fight over. No loadouts in shops means players have to work for their gear by doing strongholds, or get lucky with a drop arriving at the right time and location. Armor satchels being in tiers is a good change that would stop people stuffing plates down their tops every 5 seconds, except with the backpack system being so good to use, being able to stack up 6+ reserve plates and 3 self-revives in your backpack feels imbalanced. And whilst me being a shitter means I can't fully take advantage of the cheese this brings, I can totally see this becoming infuriating once the sweaty players find the most optimum setup to store their packed lunch in. For those curious, the meta packed lunch for Warzone is 10 boxes of ham and cheese Lunchables and 5 individually wrapped cigarettes. This is not up for debate, but overall, I'm having a great time. The new Battle Pass system of unlocking sectors and choosing specific things to unlock is pretty cool, whilst looking weird visually. There are still systems issues like social features breaking, crashing, the game having menu jank, and still a really bad UI like come the fuck on Activision. You had account-wide challenges like we knew were coming, and this is the way you lay out the calling card menu? But otherwise, I'm happy. I just pray that multiplayer gets consistent updates with content and balancing, and it's not just left in Warzone and DMZ's shadow of getting a pittance update every season, and that they make quality and substantial updates to DMZ over the coming 2 years, and not just, ooh, here's a new point of interest every season. But that's all from me. If you need me, I'll either be working on the next big main video for this channel, or more likely, procrastinating that whilst I'm barking at strangers in proximity chat playing DMZ. Thank you for watching.